Over the last few months, in the cold and short winter days, I've been testing out some beautiful little lenses. The Cooke SP3s. These lenses render beautiful images, and they borrow some of the best characteristics of vintage lenses with their textured out of focus area and fall off, whilst maintaining fantastic sharpness and detail. During my time shooting with these lenses, I've come to absolutely adore them. They are the first mirrorless mount lenses that Cooke Optics have made, and honestly, they're kind of unlike anything I've ever tested on the channel before. But the SP3s do come with quite a price tag. They retail at around the $4,000 pound mark, so picking up a full set of these lenses is going to set you back over 20k. So does the price tag justify what you can get out of these lenses? Stick around and let's get into it. The Cooke SP3s originally launched as a 5-lens set. They're all T2.4, so going from a 25, 32, 50, 75, 100, and more recently they launched an 18mm lens, which I haven't tested. I absolutely adore these lenses. There's just some sort of magic and character to them that kind of reminds me of some of my favorite vintage lenses. They have this really unique balance between, I guess, what you might call vintage characteristics in terms of how they rendered the bokeh. You have really nice center sharpness, they're detailed, but then you have this really lovely fall off into the out of focus area. There's a hint of swirliness in the bokeh. There's also this beautiful transition from what's in focus to out of focus, and that texture really brings something to the image. I think one of the defining characteristics of these lenses, as we mentioned, is the out of focus area and the bokeh. Focus breathing seems fairly well controlled, there's a hint of it there. So I thought it'd be interesting to sort of really highlight this by showing you a side-by-side with one of my Vespids. So we've got the 50mm of the SP3 and the 50mm of the Vespid. Right away, you can see that the out of focus area and the bokeh of the Cooke is just much more interesting and pleasing. And when we switch to the Vespid, we can see that generally this lens renders a lot warmer, there's a bit more contrast, there's more chromatic aberration. I know if I could choose between the Vespid and the SP3, I would definitely go for the Cooke. Close focus is, I would say, average. It's pretty good on the wider focal lengths, but as you step up and go for the longer focal length, especially up to the 100mm, it gets up to around 0.8 meters. It might be nice at some point if they were to consider releasing a macro lens in the set. I think that would overcome some of these issues. Flaring, I think, is quite interesting on these lenses. In terms of the quality of the flare, I actually quite like it. It is kind of aggressive at times. There is a sort of purple nature to it. I guess these lenses have a slight purple coating to them. The main problem I have with these lenses is that they do have a tendency to lose contrast when hit by direct or even fairly indirect light. So some kind of matte box is an absolute must. You can see here outside of Steph in the park as well, the sun is just completely wiping out the lens, and I'm trying to use my hand to try and sort of flag off that. I think if you really want to see the true benefit and magic of these lenses, then you should definitely be shooting with them on larger format sensors, like a full frame sensor. I'm really lucky that getting my hands on these lenses coincided with me also having the Pyxis. I think they just pair beautifully with that camera. Pyxis has really surprised me and won me over the last few months, and that's also due in part to using that camera with these lenses. So I've been shooting a documentary project over the last 2 months with an artist friend. I really love the images that I've been pulling back. Even in this portrait shot that we use for the interview, you can see all the elements in the lens coming together. We've got a hint of that swirly cat's eye bokeh coming at the edge of the frame, and then fantastic sharpness and detail at the center. You know, and when we're talking about this sort of center fall off, it's subtle, it's not intense. These lenses aren't crazy. Like, obviously you can shoot interviews with them and place your subjects at the edges of the frame like we can see here, and it still looks absolutely fantastic. We shot this interview probably at a T2.8 or just below, and I found generally when I was shooting this doc project, I was bouncing between the T2.8 and T4. I find that's generally the best balance of maintaining some of the lens qualities whilst giving you good sharpness across the frame. You know, people say often invest in lenses and not cameras, and I think this is really the case with these lenses. I took them out with Steph as well on a LUMIX S5 2X with the DJI Focus Pro. Just chucking them on, you know, a much older, cheaper camera like the LUMIX S5 Mark I is quite transformative. So I did a little documentary shoot for a friend, an artist friend who I featured on the channel before, and I was really blown away by the footage I got. They will transform a much older camera and allow you to pull high-end looking images off of them, even on quite sharp and clean digital sensors. I had a fairly large doc shoot last year, multi-day shoot, shooting interviews, and it was for a theatre and arts organisation, so I thought these would be really nice to use. So I used them on the Komodo and also on the B-Cam, which was the LUMIX S5. Again, matched beautifully between the two cameras. All the lenses are T2.4 and they are incredibly small, meaning that you can easily cart a full set of these around without much problem. Now there is one caveat. Although gearing, aperture and focus is consistent across the whole set, some of the lenses are larger than the others. So this is the 100mm, and as you can see it's a lot larger, and I guess one of the quirks or minor frustrations with this set is that the front filter sizes differ on this, and I believe also on the 18mm. So with the majority of the set they're a 58mm filter size, so pretty small in itself, kind of difficult for certain matte boxes. And then on the larger lens sizes we've got a 77 filter thread, something I'm a little bit more used to. It's the same diameter as on my Vespids. And they also come in the skeleton key of mirrorless mounts, which is M mount. So if you don't know, M mount, I think it's like an old Leica mount, but because of its flange distance, you can basically adapt it to any mirrorless mount. You can just buy a very cheap, 30 quid M mount adapter for your mirrorless mount, and then you can just quickly move the lenses between the different mirrorless mounts. Obviously, if the focus distance readings on the lenses are really important and you want them calibrated and really dialed in, you're going to be much better off getting the right mount for your sensor and then shimming them accordingly to make sure those focus markings are correct. If you are using the M mount route, you may see some inconsistencies with those focus markings. So should you consider the Cooke SP3s for your next project? Well, yes, absolutely. For me, they're kind of like my dream lens set. They have beautiful vintage personality without sort of sacrificing any image quality. They have beautiful detail and sharpness, and just this kind of wonderful roll off or fall off from the center to the edges that personally I love. I think these lenses will appeal to two groups of people. The first are probably people who have maybe been previously locked out of owning Cooke lenses because of the cost. So these are definitely the cheapest Cooke lenses you can buy, half the price than the next Cooke offering. For those who have always wanted to own or access Cooke lenses, this might be their first opportunity to do so. The second group of people is probably people who are already using Cooke lenses on higher end productions, but for whatever reason would benefit from using a smaller lens set which retains the same image quality and DNA as the larger Cooke lenses, so that they can fly them on mirrorless cameras, maybe on gimbals or drones or crash cams or whatever. I have absolutely loved my time shooting with these lenses. I wish I didn't have to return them. Really grateful to Cooke for loaning me these for a couple of months and allowing me to have time to shoot a few projects on them. Big shout out to Sean Davis as well, who set me up with Cooke and got the ball rolling on this. But that's it. I would love to know what you think of these lenses in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from people who already own them, whether they are still happy with that decision. That's about it. Welcome to 2025. I hope everyone's year has kicked off well, and I look forward to seeing more of you this year. That's it for now. I'm Ed, and until next time, see you later.